Hi everybody, my name is Larsen. In this video I'm going to show you how you can change things up and add a lot of interesting variations to your comping and to your chord soloing by using 3 different types of passing chords. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, about improvising over chord changes, or checking out some interesting arpeggios or scales, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. This first progression is using a 2-5-1 in the key of G major, and that's the progression that I'm going to be using for all the examples in this video. I'm using diatonic passing chords here, and a diatonic passing chord is really just if you have a melody that you're playing on a chord and you want to harmonize it, then you can choose to harmonize it, of course, only with the chord that's really in that bar, but you can also sometimes just use some of the neighboring chords in the scale to get sort of a more movement within the chords, and that's what I'm doing here. I start with the A minor 7 here. Then the next note is a D, the melody note, but instead of playing it as an A minor 7 chord, I play it as a B minor 7 chord. So, and then I move up to this A minor 9, and then back to the B minor as a passing chord, and then I go into the D7 flat 9, and then the rest of this example doesn't really use the passing chord, so I move down to this D7 13 flat 9, and then end on the G major 7 with a 9 here, and then just a short stop on the G major 6 back to the G major 7. The diatonic passing chords are really useful for especially if you have stepwise melody within a scale. So if I'm starting on the C here and then I have the melody C, B to A, then I could of course play that all with all A minor 7 chords, so like this. I can also use a neighboring chord, so I can use A minor, B minor down to A minor again, or I could use the one that's a step under the A minor, that would be a G, so maybe a G major 6, and that could be something like this. So those would all be diatonic passing chords, and that's how you'll see them used most of the time in sort of the diatonic scale runs, and then harmonizing them to keep all the voices moving. The passing chord that I'm using in this example is a diminished chord, and it's a dominant diminished chord. I'm again using it on the A minor 7 because that's really clear to have it in the beginning of the example. So the melody that I have on this example is E, D, C, D, A. And the way I'm harmonizing it is I'm starting with the A minor chord to just keep it clear that that's actually the chord that's being used here. Then the next note is a D, and I'm harmonizing that with a G sharp diminished, which is of course just the same as some sort of E7, and then resolving that to the next note, which is an A minor 7, another diminished or E7 chord here, and then down to the A. And then on the D7, I continue with first just playing a G7 13, going to this D7 altered, and then resolving that again to the G major 7 with the 9 the melody. And then I'm tagging this with a small scale run on the G major 7, and that's this, and that's using diatonic passing chords. So I'm first going from my G major here to another G major, and then I'm using an A minor passing chord back to a G major 7, which I'm playing with a B minor 7 drop 2 voicing. If you want to check out more on drop 2 voicings, then I have a playlist with a few of the videos that I made on this topic, and I'll link to it up in a card and also in the description of this video if you want to dig a little bit further in what you can do with that type of voicing, because it's a very useful voicing to check out, especially for stuff like this. If you want to get used to mixing up the A minor 7 voicings and the G sharp diminished voicings, you can do this exercise. And you may recognize this exercise as actually being sort of a harmonized version of what is also known as the Barry Harris 6 diminished. That would be then what he would call a C major 6 diminished. I'm not really using it like that, but that is really what it's using here. And that's also the principle that's behind the construction of the 6 diminished system, where you have sort of a tonic chord and then a dominant chord that's represented by a diminished chord. The most colorful type of passing chords that I'm going to talk about in this video is probably this one, which is the chromatic passing chords. So the chromatic passing chords allows us to add some chords into the progression that are completely out of the key, but that still resolve really nicely. And mostly you're using them when you're harmonizing chromatic passing notes in the melody. In this example, I'm using it both on the A minor 7 and on the D7. So I'm starting with this A minor 9, and the melody here is, so I have a chromatic passing note moving from B down to A, so that's B, B flat A, and I'm harmonizing that by starting on A minor 7 with a 9, and then adding this chromatic passing note, which is chord, which is actually a B flat minor 7, down to A minor 7, so it really resolves very nicely down here. And then the rest of the line is really just played with the A minor 7 chord. So on the D7, I start on this D7 with a 13, and then the melody is, and what I'm doing here, the first part of that is played with the chromatic passing note, so starting on this root melody, and then I have chromatic movement from the flat 9 up to the 9, and the way I'm doing that is I'm using a D flat 7 and then resolving that up to a D7 with a 9 and a 13, and then moving into the altered part of that bar, so that's just this D7 altered, and then resolving to G major 7 with a 9. When you're using these passing chords, maybe you want to pay attention to still using the chord that's really supposed to be there on the heavy beats of the bar, so on the 1 and on the 3, and then leave the passing chord to the 2 and the 4, or maybe on the offbeat between the quarter notes. And that's just because you still want to have sort of the sound of the chord that's supposed to be there come across. And the passing chord is nice, but it's an embellishment, so it shouldn't be sort of too strong in the sound in that way. For the rest, I'm of course curious if you have another type of passing chord that you use a lot that I didn't cover in this video. I know that there's one other type that I use quite often that I didn't talk about, and that's not really coming out of sort of a harmony idea, it's coming more out of a voice leading idea, but it is something I do quite often. So maybe that's also something I should make a video on at some point. If you want to see a video on that, then leave a comment on this video, of course. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar and this is the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. The videos that I publish here every week are on finding some solid methods and good strategies to explore all the interesting things about jazz guitar. If you like this video and you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. I'm very grateful for the support that I'm getting from my patrons. It's because of that support that I can keep on making videos every week. So if you join us over on Patreon, I can also give you something in return for your support. That's about it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.